Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. In this session, we'll be discussing from the 25th verse of the 9th chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Suta Vacha Yudhishthirastadakarnya Shayanam Sharapanjare Apruchad Vividhan Dharman Rishinam Cha Anushunvatam. The meaning of this verse is, Suta Goswami said, Maharaj Yudhishthira, after hearing Bhishma Deva speak in that appealing tone, asked him in the presence of all the great rishis about the essential principles of various religious duties. Now here is the most important part of the Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata, the conversation between Yudhishthira and Bhishma Deva on principles of religion, dharma, is the bulk of the Mahabharata. 3 parvas cover this conversation and the instructions Bhishma Deva gives to Yudhishthira about dharma. Bhishma Deva is one of the 12 great authorities in matter of understanding dharma. The Mahabharata says, Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam. The most confidential understanding of what is dharma is hidden in the heart of such great personalities called Mahajanas. Mahajana yena gatas sapantha. So Bhishma Deva is the most authoritative personality to speak on religious principles. Yudhishthira was put into a situation where he was aggrieved at the massacre that took place just for Yudhishthira to be enthroned as the emperor of the world. 640 million Kshatriyas were killed in that battle of Kurukshetra, which lasted just 18 days. Because huge armies, totally 18 Akshohini divisions of armies were participating in that battle, which was actually a world war. So, Yudhishthira, after the battle was over, and he had won, the Pandavas had won the battle, but seeing the massacre, Yudhishthira was aggrieved and he could not be pacified by so many other saintly persons, sages, and even Krishna himself could not pacify Yudhishthira. He was thinking, I am the most sinful person on the surface of this planet Earth. Look at my greed for becoming the emperor. I have become responsible for this huge massacre. So Yudhishthira was to be pacified by Bhishma Deva. This is Krishna's arrangement. So Srila Prabhupada explains this in the purport, that Bhishma Deva, speaking in that appealing tone, convinced Maharaj Yudhishthira that he was very soon passing away. Who he? It is Bhishma Deva. Bhishma Deva was soon going to pass away. And Maharaj Yudhishthira was inspired by Lord Sri Krishna to ask him of the principles of religion. It is Krishna who is seated in the heart of Yudhishthira, and Krishna is seated in the heart of Bhishma Deva. Krishna is seated in everyone's heart as the Paramatma. And particularly, devotees are guided by the Supreme Lord in the heart always. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita in the 3rd chapter, 17th verse, that it is explained, for the liberated souls, there are no duties to be performed as prescribed in the scriptures. So does it mean that liberated souls don't follow any authority? They whimsically act? No. The liberated souls are not required to go by the principles of the Shastra, because they are constantly in touch with Krishna within their heart. It is Krishna only who has given us the Shastra. The Shastras are meant for those who are not in touch with Krishna within the heart, the conditioned souls. And the liberated souls, they are receiving direction from Krishna within the heart every moment. Every moment they are receiving the directions. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita in the 3rd chapter, 17th verse. So, it is said here by Srila Prabhupada that Krishna inspired Yudhishthira to ask Bhishma Deva about the principles of religion, and Krishna inspired Bhishma Deva to speak, even though Bhishma was in a very, very difficult situation. Now, Bhishma spoke about the principles of Dharma elaborately to Yudhishthira. This also coincided with Bhishma waiting for the most auspicious time to quit his body, because he had such a benediction from his father. Bhishma had a benediction that he could quit his body according to the time of his choice. This particular choice is not available for most souls who are forced to quit their body at a particular time of death, when the lifespan is exhausted. Ayur harati vai pumsam. Our lifespan is taken away with every sunrise and sunset. We have a fixed duration, and we have to leave the body, which is called death, at a particular time when our lifespan is exhausted. But somebody like Bhishma Deva, they have this perfection, siddhi, it's called siddhi, that they can quit the body whenever they choose to. That means they can select the most auspicious time for quitting the body. This is explained in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. You see, everything is there in the Bhagavad Gita. But unfortunately, people don't study Bhagavad Gita under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Therefore, they are misled into thinking Bhagavad Gita is some kind of scripture which is merely talking about do your duty, don't be attached to result. Most people, if you ask them, what do you know about Bhagavad Gita? They only tell these two things. They have no understanding that Bhagavad Gita is the complete knowledge for every human being on the surface of the earth, in every aspect of their duties, in different stages. Now, Bhishma will explain, it will be told in a later verse. He explained dharma pertaining to 4 varnas and the 4 ashramas. Varna dharma, ashrama dharma. So, those details are there in the Mahabharata, but Bhagavad Gita contains the essence. The essence is given in the Bhagavad Gita. So, Bhishma Deva spoke about dharma to Yudhishthira in the presence of many great sages, because Krishna wanted to teach everyone that although Bhishma is one of the greatest devotees of Lord Krishna. He was living like a worldly man. He was living like a worldly man. But because he is the greatest devotee of Krishna, he is far superior to many great sages, including Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva was present also when Bhishma was instructing Yudhishthira. Now, Bhishma Deva was lying on a bed of arrows at the time when Yudhishthira approached Bhishma Deva. So, he was greatly aggrieved in that condition, lying on a bed of arrows. So, one should not have asked him any question at that time. But Lord Krishna wanted to prove that his pure devotee like Bhishma Deva is always sound in body and mind by dint of spiritual enlightenment. See, somebody is sent person Krishna conscious, then irrespective of the condition of the body or the mind, they are perfectly situated in Krishna consciousness always. So they are ready to speak on the principles of dharma, on the principles of Krishna consciousness. At any time you may approach them. This was demonstrated by Srila Prabhupada also. Towards the end of his manifest presence in this world, Srila Prabhupada had become very weak and emaciated. But still he was surrounded by devotees who were constantly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and Prabhupada used to receive reports about preaching all over the world in so many centers, and he would give directions when disciples were asking questions, and he was dictating purports of Bhagavatam. The last chapter that Srila Prabhupada translated and gave purports of the Bhagavatam was the 10th canto, 13th chapter. You can go through that 10th canto, 13th chapter translation and purports by Srila Prabhupada. He was dictating. He was very, very weak, but the consciousness was perfectly clear. Devotees have actually recorded that, then they have transcribed, as they usually did. Always were doing that, even before. So, Prabhupada was giving perfect knowledge, coming in the parampara, perfect knowledge. So, it is described here, in any circumstances, a devotee of the Lord is in perfect order to speak the right way of life. And Maharaj Yudhishthira, he preferred to solve his problematic questions by asking Bhishma Deva rather than ask anyone else present there, because many great saintly persons and sages arrived there understanding that Bhishma Deva is going to quit his body at the most auspicious time. And that privilege that Bhishma had, not everyone has got that. It's very rare. And this is the perfection of life, to quit the body, to be able to go back to Godhead. To be able to go back to Godhead. That is the perfection of one's life. No more taking birth again. So Bhishma Deva was ready to quit his body actually, because he was fully Krishna conscious. He could have quit any time. But taking a humble position, he decided to quit his body at the time, at the most auspicious time, Uttarayana Punyakala it's called. And while he was waiting, he spoke to Yudhishthira about the principles of religious duties. And Prabhupada says, Krishna says that worship of his devotee is more valuable than the worship of Lord Krishna himself. So, Krishna wants to glorify his devotees. While devotees want to glorify Krishna, Krishna wants to glorify his devotee. And Krishna wanted to glorify Bhishma. Therefore, Krishna inspired Yudhishthira to ask questions about dharma to Bhishma, and Bhishma answered them. I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.